Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Gary A. Swaby, and you're now listening to or watching the Powercast. And this week we will be recapping Power, uh, Power Book Two, Ghost, Season Two, Episode Two, and the title of the episode is Selfless Acts? Question mark. So I'm here with Mr. Richard Bailey Jr. How are you doing, Rich?
Doing good, Gary. What's up, listeners and viewers?
What's up, indeed? And I'm also here with Miss Dana Abercrombie. How are you doing, Dana?
I'm doing very well. Excited to be here.
Good. So did you two have a great Thanksgiving? Because I know that's an American thing. We don't celebrate over here, but I hope you two had a great holiday period and
No,
everything. So no, oh,
no.
what
I
happened?
was sick. I was sick the whole time, but then like the day or 2 days after, no, the day after Thanksgiving, it was great. So I made a roll. That's it. That was my
Oh
Thanksgiving.
man,
Okay.
I'm sorry you wasn't feeling too good. I hope you're feeling much better now.
Yeah,
I
I hope you're
am.
feeling better for sure. Um,
Yeah. How about you, Rich?
I also didn't do much of anything. All of the family is back in Boston, so I'll be visiting them for the holidays, Christmas time. So yeah, I'll definitely get to do some stuff then. But I just took it easy. Thanksgiving.
Oh, you didn't get no turkey or nothing?
Oh, I did get some turkey. Yeah, I got some
Okay.
food. I
He
got
said,
some
"I got
food.
turkey."
The food was very good. Um, But overall, I just took it easy. I didn't really do anything. I just wanted to just relax and take it easy for the entirety of the break because I didn't have to work on Friday, but I do have to go back Monday. So I just took it easy.
Okay. Well, over here in London, we did get something to be thankful for. They opened up the first Popeyes here, so you know you know where I'm gonna be the next few weeks. So
Some biscuits.
yeah, I need to get me a biscuit, man, a real biscuit. But yeah, so I hope all the listeners out there, I hope you had a good Thanksgiving and Black Friday. I hope you didn't go too crazy with the shopping and everything. But yeah, it is the season for buying and purchasing things. So
hmm
just pace yourself out. Make sure you got everything handled. Make sure the kids got their Christmas gifts and all that stuff. But yeah, with that being said, speaking of gifts, this week, this episode of Power was incredible. I loved it. Like it had everything I love about writing, like and the world of power and everything. There was a lot of exposition in this episode. Like a lot of world building and storytelling elements and stuff like that. Like a lot of subtle things that they threw in. So I loved it. So we're going to get straight into our takeaways, and then we're going to get to our questions where we kind of break down and analyze the events of the episode. And this week I'm going to Dana Abercrombie first. So Dana, let us know your takeaways from this episode of Power Book Two Ghost.
I'm shocked. I'm first. All right. So the title of this was called Selfless Acts. And of course, it's with a question mark. So we don't know whether or not it's selfish or selfish. Selfish? You get the point. Um, the thing also, it always seems to tie in with what Tariq is learning in his ethics class. And that is basically about you scratch my bag, I scratch yours. So it's not about my act as being selfless. It's I do something for you, you do something for me in return. And that's essentially what we got with this episode, and also a take of it carried into from the previous episode about how people are now trying to break free from whatever kind of confines or Monet-ishness that is around. And with this episode, it was that stood out the most to me is how people are trying to break free of Monet and break free of what people expect from them. And in regards to Monet, which really just struck me as a big surprise, she hates when her children is like, "Let's get some education, let's go to school." No, it shows that complete control that she wants to have over her kids to the point where it handicaps them and it cripples them Diane came with a very great proposition. Allow me to go to school to get an MBA so I can learn how to do the books so we can keep and make money that we have, both properly and illegally. And Monet, you would have thought she told her, I killed grandma with a kitchen spoon because she was unable to understand, an education. And I think because she couldn't control Diane and the fact that you can learn from in school, that she felt that it would be a way of her breaking away from her, she went completely off the rails with that. And this is why we go back later with the episode where we see Diane and I think it was Effie or Lauren?
Yeah, Effie.
Yeah.
Effie, teach me what you know. I want to go to school. I'm going to go to school secretly. And that just blew me away. Something basic as wanting to get an education, you have to now secretly do it. Also, with that, in terms of Zeke now knows the truth in regards to everybody is hoping for him to take this pro athlete journey and sign up with the pros, not because we think we believe in you, you have talent, but because you're our ticket out, you're our exit plan, and not our essentially, it's Monet's. I think we're at that point where, if push come to shove, Monet would abandon her kids to save herself. Um, so that was one of the things that stuck out. Also, the fact that Kane, who is now accepted back into the family, he's kind of gone off on his own little venture, and he was very smart about it by stealing from his own mother in order to get in with um, Dante. So that was one of the things that stuck out. And then one little tiny thing that people might have missed, Brayden is now trying to belong to Kappa, which is a fraternity in the show, and he does not want to. And he's still stuck under his family's thumb where he has to start pledging and he does not want to. And you see that Tariq, very briefly, but he kind of gave him like, you take care of the product, everything's going to be fine. Gave him that sense of responsibility and kind of made him believe in himself, even though it backfired, but it's not technically because of him. But it's someone that's actually putting faith into him and allowing himself to, do what he always wanted to do. And remember in the last episode, he gave this whole speech about why he loves, being with Tariq and running drug game. It's not because he needs any money. It's giving him a sense of purpose and responsibility. So those were the main things that kind of stuck out to me the most, was just how raggedy Monet is, and best way I could describe it, she's raggedy. You won't even let your kids go to school. So that sense of control, her losing that sense of control, and then of course we have the ending, which is like the plot twist. They know each other, and they know each other, because that whole paranoia, which makes me wonder. Remember when she was paranoid from the first episode? It was he like creeping in and causing kind of like something was going on, and she didn't know what until she heard the song. So that's interesting, and I wonder overall how that's going to work, because you now have Kane in the mix where he's basically using Monet, and Monet doesn't know that, and I wonder if her feelings for Dante might get into the mix, even though technically she's still with her husband, but she told her husband she's tired and bored of this. So I would like to see more of what happens in that. But those are the three things that stood out for me.
Cool. Yeah, great takeaways. Yeah, some of those things were also, some of my favorite things about the episode also. Um, and yeah, so we'll head right over to you, Richard. What's your takeaways for this episode?
Yes, I agree. Dana had some great takeaways. I thought that this was a thoroughly enjoyable episode. A lot of, from a writing standpoint, as Gary mentioned, just a lot of tidbits of information thrown into the episode. Questions that I'm sure some people had, but they elaborated on it a lot more if you was paying attention to the show. Like Dana had mentioned the stuff with Lorenzo and Monet. We found out that they've been together for 22 years because they were celebrating their 22nd anniversary. And of course, Monet said that she wants more. She was telling him she wanted more. And we also found out that Lorenzo is going to be in there for life. Because I don't know if that was clear in the first season. I would have to go back and see if that was said in the first season, but I didn't know how long he was going to be in there for. And then, yeah, the other quick point I will add is even the stuff that has to do with McClane and his brother, played by Redman. Now we know that he's in prison for manslaughter and first-degree murder because they showed that quick screen of the mugshot, and that's what it said that he's in jail for. So,
yeah, real quick, why did he have a photoshopped beard in those mugshots?
Yeah, it looked very weird, man. His head shape looked very weird.
To show you that time has passed.
Yeah, but it definitely did look weird. I agree, and yeah, probably to show time passed, like you said. So I have three main takeaways from the episode. The first one is that yes, Kane is a master manipulator and very smart, because I think when we saw this character from the first season, we knew that he was more so of a tough guy, but you question how good was he at being street smart about certain stuff. In this episode, it shows you that he thinks beyond, even though they didn't show him actually do this stuff, just showing having him explain at the end of the episode, yeah, he was the one that switched the product to Mecca. It's just a brilliant way to phrase the character, because again, the whole time this guy is talking with Tariq about how we're going to handle this situation with the murder. And yet this is the person who uses his own product from his family to get back in with his family, which that's only going when Tariq, if Tariq ever finds that out, and I'm sure he will eventually find that out, this will create more tension between him and Kane. Because right now he's under the impression that they can work together. But again, Kane is going to have to watch Tariq, and Tariq definitely should be careful and watch out for Kane as well. But I really like Woody McClane as an actor. Again, I was wondering what he was going to bring to the table when they added him to the show, because I thought he was really good in a lot of other movies and stuff that he's been in. So yeah, he did an excellent job in this episode, definitely stood out, and it makes me curious to see what's going to happen with his character as the season progresses. So that's number one. The second takeaway of this episode is Rashad Tate. I love how they have added him to this show in the role in which that he's in, because obviously what we saw last week is this whole thing about, yes, he wants to once again get back in the governor's race, which he is going to do. But in order to get to that stage, he needs to do some other things to really raise his profile and put him in good standing. And we said last week, yeah, probably it's going to be a situation where he's going to have to work with Tariq. And that is essentially what is happening now, which is why, as Dana pointed out earlier, Selfless Acts, excellent title for the episode, because it ties into the storyline in the way that they describe everything. But what I also, one other point that I did want to mention is that, with Tariq's story, and again, the fact that his grandmother got a DUI and his sister Yaz going into foster care, all of the drama with the family stuff. Now you're seeing how Tariq is going to try and get Tate's help, and how Tate is going to try to get Tariq's help. But the one point that I did want to mention, which maybe people caught and maybe they didn't catch, is that when Tariq had that conversation about trying to get help, it was told that, because he spoke to McLean, he said, you're going to have to get some type of man, some type of person of influence. And it's funny because Rashad Tate's spinoff is called Power Influence. So again, this is an excellent storytelling to connect all that stuff together, because I don't know if people knew that that's what the name of the spinoff is. So, what, you gonna say something, Dana? Okay, no. Yeah. So I like that they put that in there. And again, we will see how that all comes full circle. And the final takeaway I have for this episode is really about, I think that Gary's favorite character on the show, Carrie, is on the hot seat. She's on the hot seat in more ways than one. Just so much drama and tension with what's happening with her now. Because obviously, yes, she has to worry about, now you have to work with Rashad Tate, who I know she does not really like at all. But then you find out in this episode that, her sponsor basically, Kevin tracked down her sponsor, got all the information, and now he knows about her past with Jabari. He knows about what she's been doing with Zeke because she told him at the end of the episode. And I found that funny because I know that both of y'all said, hey, Kevin might still have a shot at Carrie. I don't know if that's true now. We'll see. But then we also find out at the very end, McLean also had something with her as well. And they had their whole interaction, and she's talking about, oh, I see that you don't have your wedding ring on. So, yeah, this is probably somebody he was messing around with when he was married as well. So it's crazy how everything is connected. And again, it puts a lot of drama on the situation. You saw that Tariq planted the phone. Well, he planted some of the evidence in pretty much at her desk. So I'm curious to see how this all comes full circle. She is going to have to rely on McLean for some type of help. We saw that Zeke broke it off with her because of this whole NBA draft thing, which I'm pretty sure we can all agree that is not going to end well with this draft stuff. But yeah, as far as how they put together the episode, very well written. It keeps you guessing as to what's going to happen, and this is exactly what I want to see in a power show. So I think that they did an excellent job with this episode, and I can't wait to see what happens next week.
Oh yeah, for sure. And yeah, I agree. They were really playing around with the writing in this episode, and yeah, that influence thing, the fact that they incorporate that word specifically, like to describe Tate, like that was that was well done, Starz. We know what you were doing there. So yeah. So yeah, my takeaways they're pretty similar to stuff you guys have said already. So first of all, I like that Diana is showing signs of independence. She showed a bit of an independent streak in this episode, because we know that Monet is very bossy. She's very controlling of her children. But, in this episode, Diane kind of took some initiative and she made some moves, without consulting Monet, like deciding to go meet Tariq and everything. And then and actually going to Effie by herself after the fact as well. And then she also figured out that, Kane had something to do with, the drugs being stepped on. So yeah, I liked that, her character was kind of coming into her own a little bit in this episode. And I hope that continues and she continues to kind of rebel. We know Drew is already rebelling a little bit. So, it's kind of cool to see that coming from Diane as well, because her character has been very suppressed because of Monet. So just seeing her now starting to, act on her own accord is a great thing to see. And I hope, that continues to develop as the episodes go on. And I think, Tariq with this whole trying to pin the murder on Carrie, I think this is very unlike Tariq. And I think this is a move that is going to backfire on him, because we know, obviously the main characters in Power, we know they're bad people already because of the things they're doing. They're selling drugs. They're dishonest people. We know that they're not meant to be good people, but typically Tariq has had kind of a rational side of him where he even though he might be a criminal, he operates in a fair way. He has morals, he has principles and things. So trying to pin this murder on Carrie, it goes against all of that. So I think this is a bad move he's making, and I think this is going to hurt him in the long run. And I think he's going to hit a wall. He's going to reach a point where, he can no longer go down, or he has to decide if he really wants to go down this path. I think, there's going to be various conflicting things occurring that's really going to put, his willingness to do this to the test. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out, because Carrie is an innocent party. She made some very bad decisions. She made a lot of mistakes, but she does not deserve to have this murder pinned on her like that. So This is going to come back to haunt Tariq, I think, in a big way. And yeah, I guess we'll see. I think the detective, the guy that's investigating, what is it, Kevin Whitman? I think his name is. I think, obviously he suspects Carrie heavily at the moment, but I think as he continues to dig, I think eventually he might realize that, Carrie didn't do this. So it's just a matter of him doing some more digging to really uncover everything. So we'll see how that plays out. But yeah, a very bad move for Tariq, I think, making that decision to frame Carrie. And I love the dynamic between Tate and Carrie. I love the fact that he's now at the school and everything. Like, I think, like, Rashad's character has always been, entertaining to watch. So to have him now on campus and interacting with Carrie, we know right away that he was going to go after her and pursue some sort of relationship, So yeah, just seeing that happen is hilarious. And it makes me wonder if he's going to succeed in, dating her or something. And the reason why I'm wondering that as well is because in that scene where Zeke visited Carrie and, to essentially break up with her so he could focus on his career or whatever, it kind of seemed to me like Carrie was about to break up with him too. So what was the reason for that? Like, if that's the case, like, did she do, like, is it that she just doesn't want this negativity around her? Or is it that she feels she has other prospects, in her back pocket or something? So, it kind of makes you wonder where, like, what's going on in Carrie's mind. And it appears on screen that she might not like Tate, but I'm wondering if she's playing hard to get or something, so I don't know. I guess Dana doesn't agree, but it's just I'm just wondering. I'm not saying for sure that's what's happening. It's just a thought, maybe that's what it is, you never know. So but yeah, and what's next here? Tate. Oh yeah, so we saw that obviously Tariq is having family troubles. His grandma caught a DUI, and Yaz is now in the foster care system, which is very sad. So he needs help, and as soon as he saw Tate, he thought, why not go and ask him? But Tate is a politician, so it's never going to be straightforward. It's never going to be, ask him for help and he helps you and that's it. He has to get something in return. And he asked if, Tariq knows the Westons. Now that's Braden's family, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering if Tariq is going to dish up the dirt on Braden's family, because Braden is his best friend, his partner. So is he going to rat out his partner's family? And if he does, that could be potentially dangerous for him, because we saw in this episode that Braden actually stored the drugs, the stepped-on drugs, at his parents' warehouse. Was it? I think something like that. It was a premises that his parents owned, where he stored the drugs. And then at the end of the episode, Tariq got a new location thanks to Lauren. For the drugs. But who's to say, Braden he's putting Braden in charge. He's trusting him. There could be a situation where Braden brings the drugs back to his family's place or something, something like that can easily happen. So if Tariq gives up dirt on the Westerns and, Tate uses that information because he wants, the what is it? Senator, mayor, Sweeney, because he wants Sweeney to look bad, like, so that could hurt Tariq in that case, because if they find something, while they're looking into this, if they find something at Braden's family's, premises or something like that, then that's gonna fall on Tariq too. So he needs to be very careful with the information he gives up. And then also, you don't want to rat out your friend if that's your actual friend and your partner, you don't want to rat them out. So I'm wondering what Tariq is going to do in that situation. Obviously, Tariq, he's learning to be more calculating, like his father was. So maybe he has a plan of how he's going to approach that. But we'll just have to wait and see. Uh, and also, so Kane's plan, like Rich said, I do like how they, made that whole thing unfold with the stepped on work, in this episode. They executed that perfectly, because we were all wondering like who did this. Like somebody clearly must have, purposely stepped on these drugs. Like who did it? And then it was obviously revealed to be Kane. So he orchestrated the whole thing to create a demand within the Tejada family, so they would have to come to him to get a new plug essentially. So that was great how it was done, and it really made Kane's character shine a little bit, because we don't always get to see him shine. Like it seems like he's always on like a downslope a little bit. He's kind of sometimes he's a bit reckless and misguided and stuff. But in this was actually a win for him in this episode, so it was cool to see that. But this thing that happened at the end, where we see Monet and Mecca slash Dante or whatever his name is,
Yeah.
they have a history. So now what that means is, we could still see Mecca overstep Kane and deal with Monet directly now, because they have a history. And by the way, that's another thing that I like, how they set it up with the mysterious red car playing the music and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then the bins. What do you guys call them over there? The dumpster or whatever. We call them bins. We call them rubbish bins. But yeah, like they were like
Dumpster.
dumpster. Okay, yeah, they were knocked over on the side. So
Yep.
so
Those are trash cans.
trash cans. There you go. That's what
Yeah.
you guys call them.
That was the signal. That's the signal, as
Yeah.
they described. That's the signal for when
Yeah.
they was
When
pursuing
they were
each other
younger.
at a younger age.
Yeah, so I like how they set that up, because it was very like mysterious. We were wondering like, is this like a new plug or something? Like what's going on here? So so yeah, I like how they set that up. And because you just see you see these shots of Monet looking mesmerized like by the music, and it's like what's going on here? Like does she know something? So yeah, it was very well done. But yeah, so great episode overall. I think this is definitely one of the best Power Book 2 Ghost episodes in my opinion. Just the way it was written. Was you gonna say something, Dana?
Yes, I forgot, and no one mentioned, and I'm surprised about this, but it opened with a dream, well, a
Oh yeah.
nightmare
Yeah.
sequence that carried throughout the episode, and it started with Tariq unable to still reach his mother,
Yeah.
and him having to. It was two things. It was him unable to reach his mother, and then we had the return of adult Kanan, played by 50
Yeah.
Cent,
Mm.
Gary's father, come in and was like, you got to man up, basically saying you have to man up and do this on your own, but he said it more hilariously. And so it also represented what Tariq has to go through in this season. His mom is not there for him. His dad is dead. His sister's in foster care, and grandma's a drunk. So it all relies on him.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that sequence was hilarious and great. And it also makes me question, because they released this photo a while ago. It makes me question what Tariq ends up going through where this happens, where he that sense of complete loneliness and having the ghost of Ghost come and reach out to him, and him completely being isolated. It makes me wonder what ends up happening in terms of both this whole drug situation, the
Mm-hmm.
case with Jabari, what is actually coming back to him. And it seems like there will be some of the ghosts that will guide him through, because remember, we had Kanan basically saying, you know what to do. Man Up and him burning the SIM's card and getting rid of the phone. And that was the phone that was connected to Tasha. So he no longer has that connection anymore. And when he was at the bonfire, it showed Tasha's face basically crying into the phone. And I'm like, wow, that's really sad. Yeah. So
Just like you said, a perfect bookend, because when it started, we saw that reflection also in the dream sequence.
Yeah.
So they did an excellent job on that. But no, continue.
But it also makes me wonder in regards to Grandma, who's 62, who's basically, her reasoning was very understandable. She's tired. Tasha had kids when she was young. She had to raise her kids. She wasn't able to live her life because she was raising Tasha. Now she has to deal with what? The third generation we're on? Meaning the grandkids. And she's tired. It was supposed to be, it was her time to be free and to have a break and to just go out. And everything that she's getting. Remember, she had the thing it was, or maybe showed signs of dementia, or maybe Alzheimer's. Maybe that's just all compound stress, and maybe that's not actually the Alzheimer's and dementia or whatever it is. It's just compound stress of her dealing with everything and taking on other people's responsibilities, and now everyone's dead, and how that affects her. So I thought that they did a really good, yeah.
Oh no, I was just going to say, I laughed when she mentioned the Ghost died. I don't think she cared about Ghost. We know Ghost didn't care
money.
too much.
Ghost had money.
Yeah, he did have money.
At the end of the day, she figured. Remember, he gave her money. Remember, at the end, he gave everyone a part in the will.
Yeah.
And that's why my grandma was like, "Hey, how you doing? I miss him. I'm so sad. He's dead." So that whole part, she thought she would take that money. I'm retiring. I'm done. But then, yeah.
I don't remember him giving her money though. I know
she was
he
at
said,
that table smiling.
Yeah, but he.
Tommy,
I know.
I'm confusing it with Tommy's mom.
Tommy's mom. Yeah, he gave her money. I don't think he gave Tasha's mom anything.
Well, I'm pretty sure Tasha would have gave her.
Tasha didn't get, like, he gave Tariq money, and Tariq wanted to share that with his mom, but he can only get that after college.
Sure.
So
That's right.
And after he gets a certain GPA, and so.
Right. So many shows ago. But the point is, she thought she was going to retire. He's dead. My daughter has it. Go raise your children. But now she's in witness protection, which is also weird because, what was it? Yasmin is not with her. So, but even though, remember Dre, he was able to take his kid into witness protection, but somehow Yasmin is not there, and I'm just confused about that. So you have that going on, and
you're breaking up a little bit.
Who, me?
Yeah. I think you're good now.
Oh no, you're okay now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you have that going on, and you have all of these other factors that you have to look out for, and him basically having to break away and step away from the shadows or the ghostesses of Christmas past. So that was just one of the big main things that I forgot to mention.
Yeah, that was also a great setup throughout the episode, the whole phone thing, and showing, like, because that's his final connection to his mom. So yeah, I like how they did that. But what was you gonna say, Rich?
Well, I just was gonna mention one final thing, because before you finish your takeaway and we go into the questions, I was going to say I noticed in this episode they really paint Tariq as a selfish character, and this is the same stuff that, because this is Ghost's son. This is the same stuff that they painted of Jamie St. Patrick, because you remember how they just, with the whole thing with Effie, and they reveal that Effie is not in a relationship with Tariq anymore, and she says he's very selfish. And even when Monet warns Diana that Tariq is only out for himself, he's his own man, he's not someone you should wait around for. That was a warning. So I did notice that they paint him as someone who is only concerned about himself. And that is something that I think we're going to see evolve as the show goes on, because I wasn't really convinced of that yet, that he's as bad as Ghost is. But the fact that he did what you said, Gary, to try to set up Carrie, that lets you know he will do whatever he has to do to protect himself in so in his interest. So that's something that I'm curious to see how they're going to explain that as the storyline continues. But go ahead, Dana.
Yeah.
Is that an act of selfishness or an act of I need to get away from this situation? Because Carrie is the one who, and she's not a bad person. She's just thirsty. She's the one who, because of her thirst, gets
Yeah.
involved in more things.
Yeah.
And she is easier to blame because of her interactions with both Jabari and her misgressions with students that Kevin now knows of.
Mm-hmm.
So is it more like, oh, I'm being selfish, or it's a matter of convenience because you're just there? Who else is it that he can blame the murder on?
Well,
I mean, I think it's both. It's both those things. It's a little selfishness because obviously he doesn't want to. He doesn't want to take the rap for a murder. So of course, it's a little selfish in that respect. But also, like you said, it's the convenience also because Carrie's got dirt on her already. So.
Yeah, and Kevin was the one that brought this up to Tariq when they had his conversation with Tariq. He's like, "What do you know about her relationship with Jabari?" And then he said, "Oh, well, that's my opportunity to say she is the one that's involved." So yeah, it's an opportunist mindset as well.
And also, Kevin seems hell bent on pinning something on Carrie. I don't know if this is like a past lovers quarrel, and now I got revenge on you.
Can I just ask you both a question?
No.
Why is that character so aggressive? The knocking on the door, loud knocking on the door. Like, yeah, this is what they want to emphasize. Yes, this is the police. The loud knocks at the door, and then he just looks so angry, like he's going to threaten somebody when he's trying to. No, you're going to answer my questions.
Jabari was his boo.
He's not happy that he lost Carrie, I'm assuming, and now he wants to make her pay for whatever is her involvement in all of this.
Yeah, and one last thing I wanted to say from my takeaways is that I love the song at the end, the Mobb Deep Getaway. I love that song. So that was another great point, another great thumbs up for me. So
Gary, yeah. What about Can You Stand the Rain? You didn't enjoy that song? We know Monet can't stand the rain.
Oh yeah, of course. That's a timeless classic.
Yeah, so, yeah.
Go have that one. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the takeaways. We are going to get to our questions where we're going to do like a deeper dive into some of the questions that arise after this episode. But I just want to give everyone a reminder that if you're enjoying the content, please hit the like button. Consider subscribing as well and hitting the bell on YouTube. If you're listening, on Spotify or Apple or, Amazon, wherever you listen to podcasts, then, make sure you follow us also. And definitely leave your comments also, leave your comments, whether you're on YouTube, if you want to leave a comment on the website, you can go to thekoalition.com where we post all the episodes, or you can hit us on Twitter or IG. And, we just started an IG account specifically for Powercast. And it's, at Powercast Show. So go check us out there also. But yeah, just a little reminder, because, we love our community. We love chopping it up about, all the different storylines and story threads and everything that happens in the Power universe. So definitely make sure you subscribe and follow and engage with us. So let's get right into these questions, because there's some real juicy ones here. So the first one I'm gonna ask is so let me see here, how should I word this? So this was pretty much one of my takeaways, but I want to see what you guys think of it. So do you think Tariq is actually going to give Tate, information about Braden's family, the Westons, and the senator guy or whatever, I don't know what the position is. What is he?
He's a congressman.
Congressman. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Your politics is very different from ours. So, yeah. So do you think Tariq is actually going to, give up information on Braden. So I'll go to you first, Dana. What do you think about that?
That was my I don't know face. But story wise, that would be a great plot twist because here's the thing. We know that the Sweeneys, he's after Sweeney's seat, and we do know that he is very determined. And what better way to blindside by someone by revealing everything that happens, including with the drugs and with the fact that the drugs are being stashed at their compound, wherever that compound may be. It's under their name. And we do know that there is a person who is looking to take down the Sweeneys. So it's just really convenient that they purposely, talked about we had to move the stash. Oh, don't worry, it's at my parents' house. That was very important, and I think that that is something that they will come back to, and that it will implicate them in some kind of big drug money laundering school thing that connects back to the school, and Braden will somehow get caught up in this. Whether we or not we will learn that, or whether or not Braden will learn that it comes directly from Tariq's mouth, we don't know. But I do see Braden's family being taken down. The fact that they focused on, even though we're on episode 2, but they focused on Braden's family this year. We know they come from money, power, then they have that kind of prestige in that political miss. And it will come back to bite them. Braden, here's the other thing that we should look out for, whether or not Braden will care. Braden wants to break away from his family, and he wants to be able to do things on his own. Not sure he's able to do it with poverty, but he's still wants to do things on his own and by himself. If it comes to a place where he is not implemented in what the downfall of his family, meaning he doesn't face any kind of charges and it comes back to him, I feel he might be okay with it. No one he probably doesn't want to see his what is it uncle go to jail or his family being dragged through the courts, and he will probably be upset and have some regret about that. But overall, I don't see this being a huge impact on him. He may look at this as an opportunity to break free, and this might be something where he views as a blessing. And while he may be angry at Tariq, I don't know if that'll be a long lasting anger.
Hmm, interesting. What about you, Rich? What's your thoughts on that?
Those are some very good thoughts for sure, Dana. We have to give you props for that. I think it's going to really be a test of loyalty for these two for the season, because I do agree that I don't think Braden would, he wants to separate himself from the family. Um, what's going to be interesting to find out is to see, because last season, the relationship between Tariq and Braden was strained because of Sax's niece, who was at the time his girlfriend, and we saw how Tariq dealt with that situation. So now that the family is involved, it kind of raises the stakes a little bit more. Um, when they had said that they had moved the drugs, the other thing I thought about was, is that a smart decision? Because we know that Trace has an issue with drugs. We saw that last season, and I don't think that he learned his lesson from last season. I think that he could still be an issue because, again, this is the older brother that is, annoying the younger brother and all this other stuff. And you saw, like how Dana mentioned, earlier, how Trace was in that fraternity. His brother is still commanding him, telling him, "Do this. You're gonna do what I say," stuff like that. So I thought that he was going to also get involved in this, and he could still get involved in it. But to answer the question, I think if Tariq has to work with Tate and get him information on Sweeney, he definitely will do whatever he has to do. But here is the wild card in all of this: Carrie. Because if something happens to Carrie, and you know that Tate is interested in Carrie, that kind of complicates the situation a little bit in terms of him working with Tariq. yes, he does want to be governor more than trying to get with Carrie. But I think that dynamic, he's probably the type of person that's going to want everything. He's going to want her, and he's going to want that position. So I'm curious to see how they're going to work that out. Also, we also know that Sachs and McLean do not like Tate, and they're going to cross paths again now that Carrie is in the picture. So I'm curious to see how that storyline progresses. But to answer your original question, Gary, I do think that Tariq is eventually going to give up some information on Sweeney. And in my opinion, he should, since he went hunting with them on that trip and almost got shot. So in my mind, Tariq should want to try to see something happen with this guy. But we'll see how the storyline plays out.
Yeah, great points.
And just to say, not Tariq, the dude with the Tate, Tate.
Yeah.
The thing with his character is that he thinks he can use his sexualness to influence or get people to be on his side, and Carrie is just not feeling it in general. And so that is also a huge roadblock there. And I think that in terms of Tate and his growth, I would like to see him try something else as opposed to trying to bet a woman to get information.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, great points. Yeah, I agree with Rich. I think Tariq will give up some information. Now, I think he'll do it in a way where he'll kind of look out for Braden. He won't, directly implicate him, or he won't put him in a vulnerable situation. But I think he'll give up some information, some important information that Tate can use in his takedown of Sweeney. And we know that there's some kind of tension in the family already. Like Rich highlighted, the brothers, they don't exactly get along all the way. And then the sister, she kind of has like a pessimistic outlook on the family as well, particularly the parents and everything. So I think there's some inner turmoil there within the family that might actually end up hurting Braden in some way. Like maybe this will become a problem for him. Like his family will create issues for him, and it will kind of take his head out the game as far as the drugs. So then Tariq can kind of step in, give Tate some information, and then it kind of smooths over the family situation so they can keep selling the drugs. So whether that leads to people getting locked up or having to go away or something like that, like I think Tariq is going to do it in a very calculating way where it solves problems for him and Braden. But we just have to see how that unfolds, because it could happen in so many different ways. It just depends on what's going to happen with the family and stuff like that, and also the investigation, because that's also a big part of this too. So yeah, I guess we just have to see how that plays out. But I think Tariq for the most part trusts Braden, so I don't think he'll do anything to directly impact him or hurt him in any way. So yeah, but I guess we'll just have to see what happens. And next question I had is so do you like, because I mentioned earlier, right, that I think Tariq trying to set up Carrie is a bad idea for him. So I want to ask you guys, like specifically you, Rich, because I don't know if you had the chance to comment on this, but do you see Tariq trying to frame Carrie being karma? Like, is it going to end up as bad karma for him trying to frame her for the murder? Like, do you think it's going to come back to hurt him in the long run? And how do you foresee this whole thing playing out? So go ahead, Rich, you first.
That's a good question. Yeah, normally these things definitely don't play out well for the characters. The one aspect about this season that we really haven't gotten an answer on yet is what happened to Jabari's stuff that he was writing, that book, where it pretty much basically mentions Tariq, but it does not mention him in name as Tariq. It's talking about his family. I kind of feel like whoever finds that book, that is the motive to say, oh, Tariq probably did have a hand in killing Jabari. So he needs to hope that that doesn't get found. It's very interesting that that hasn't popped up yet, but I kind of feel like that's coming. And if it is a situation where he gets Carrie in trouble, we know that McLean will do whatever he can to represent her, because you saw when he heard that she was involved with this case, he immediately said, "Oh, hey, Sex, keep doing what you're doing," and then he goes to try to pursue her to talk about it. So you're going to need my help. So it pits Tariq against McLean and Sax, because you know he already doesn't like Sax and vice versa. So it can go in many different directions, but I think to answer your question, Gary, yes, I do believe that it will be bad karma for Tariq if he does succeed in setting her up for Jabari's murder, without a question.
Yeah. So in that scenario that you brought up, because that's very interesting, with McLean, you know, because he's in an interesting spot here. So clearly he has some sort of, you know, loyalty or some sort of you know, love or care for Carrie, but you know, currently he's Tariq's client. Oh, Tariq is his client, right? So is he going to be loyal to the person who's paying him, or you know, this person Carrie, who he has some sort of history with? You know, who is he going to be loyal to in that situation? Like that creates a big question also. And we know that McLean is a very slimy, sneaky sort of character. So I think it's going to be very entertaining to see how he maneuvers that whole situation, because like at the moment it's like a balancing act if you think about it, because the more Carrie is the suspect, the better it is for Tariq. But then if McLean has some sort of, you know, history with her, he doesn't want to see that happen to Carrie, right? But then if the suspicions are off of Carrie, that leaves Tariq vulnerable. So it's going to be a big balancing act for McLean, and we also got to pay attention to Sax here, because when he learned about this case and he learned, you know, about Carrie and then Tariq, like once he heard Tariq's name in it, he kind of, I think he kind of knew mentally that Tariq had something to do with it. Because he knows Tariq's history. Of,
Oh
you
yeah,
know.
he knows. He
So
knows.
so yeah, I want to see how he's gonna, you know, act throughout this season as well.
One other quick thing I want to mention too, and then I definitely want to hear what Dana has to say. Something else that was mentioned in this episode was a conversation piece between Zeke and Drew. And Drew basically told Zeke that Tariq is behind course correct. Now we know that Zeke is about to be questioned by Kevin in the next episode. So if they find out about course correct and Zeke slips up and said, "Oh yeah, I might know who's involved with that," this is also bad for Tariq. So I kind of feel like Tariq is definitely in a vulnerable position to a degree here. It's just a question of how they're going to do it, and then how you're going to do this whole thing of getting him out of trouble, so that he can continue doing what he does without getting caught by Monet, by the way. But that course correct thing, I thought that was a very interesting. You know, just briefly, Drew makes that comment to him. He's like, "Oh, Tariq is behind that? Man, he's on point with that. He probably shouldn't have revealed that information, but we'll see what happens with that."
Yeah. Was you gonna say something, Dana?
Yeah, I
I
think
was
so.
just waiting for it to be my turn.
Yeah, it is Dana's turn.
Oh yeah, it's your turn. Go ahead.
What was the question?
So the question is, do you think Tariq is going to get bad karma later on for trying to frame Carrie for the murder of Jabari?
I mean, he's already dealing with karma from Jabari. Not karma, but he's being haunted. I don't think so far it's going to be karma. And if it is karma, I don't think that it's going to be direct towards him, but something that affects him. Um, right now he's just trying to mentally deal with everything that's going on, and there is a reason as to why I feel the ghosts are visiting him. So in directness with Carrie, Carrie was kind of just a teacher that really paid attention to him, and I'm not going to say gave him an easy time, but tried to understand him the most. When you had another teacher like Jabari who was just trying to extort him, so I think that if Carrie ends up going to jail or is murdered behind this, it will be sad and it will be something that he will have to try to live with. But I don't see it being any form of karma where it goes directly against him in retaliation.
Okay.
Okay, can I make one other quick comment? I just
Yeah.
want to say I found it very entertaining how Tariq meets up with Kane afterwards and tells him, I got someone who I know someone to put the pendants on. And then Kane asks him who, and then he gets the text and says no. So he leaves him hanging. So Tariq is already off to a bad start with how he is handling things with Kane, because now Kane's going to be suspicious that he doesn't have this thing taken care of, and that's why they're going to probably they're going to definitely have take a closer look at him in the next couple of episodes.
But the thing is, I want to know is where is the end game with Kane involving Tariq? Because we knew that he was upset that Tariq basically, I don't want to say pushed him aside and now joined the family, but it was accepted into the family more than Kane. So I'm trying to figure out is he's whatever information that he's using or telling him, is he going to use it against him? And then maybe that can be some form of karma. But I can't again say it's directly because they're two separate acts that happen to be working at the exact same time.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Yeah. Yeah, we do need to see more of, the link between Tariq and Kane, more of what their, new partnership entails or whatever. I don't know if you can call it a partnership, but it's more of like an understanding that they have with each other. Yeah, exactly.
But
Because
then, oh,
because
sorry.
like if you think about it, the drugs, they're not dealing with the drugs directly, because the drugs is going through Monet first and then going to Tariq from Monet. So it's like it's not direct in that way.
Mm-hmm.
But we know that Kane is aware of the murder. They did that whole thing together.
Yep.
So, they're linked in that way. So I guess in terms of like street dirt or whatever, they're kind of tied to one another. So I want to know more about, how these two are going to interact with each other as things play out. And I think we're going to see some of that next week because, we saw the preview, which we're going to talk about in a few minutes. But yeah, I want to know more about, what their understanding is of each other. But go ahead, Dana. You wanted to say
The
something.
thing is, I want to know is because they're connected only because of Jabari.
Hmm.
And if by framing everything on Carrie, and say Carrie does take the fall for it, that means that Jabari and Tariq's relationship can now be over with. That agreement can now be over
Yeah.
with.
Mm-hmm.
So they can go their own separate ways. It doesn't make any sense to me, from my understanding, for Kane or even Tariq to disrupt that agreement that they have because, once Carrie is done and over with, that'll be done and over with.
Yeah. But there also could be a bigger play here. They could both be looking to kind of take over the whole thing, like the whole, the connect situation and
Kane.
selling the drugs. Like if they team up, because Tariq has the distribution at the campus, and Kane is, he's going direct to the plug, like he's directly tied to the plug. So if those two team up, they can cut out Monet and just they can have an empire themselves. So
Mm-hmm.
I want to see if that is the bigger play here, or if they're just kind of tolerating each other or something.
So
But
then you can argue whether or not Tariq still wants his connection with Monet. And in order to get
yeah.
further in, he ends up revealing everything about Kane.
Mm.
Maybe.
Yeah,
I don't know.
maybe, or maybe there's maybe the long term plan is to get rid of Monet, and then have those two will head the family business.
He
Uh-oh.
knocked him over the
Because I
trash
mean
can.
he has this sort of on off relationship with Diane. Drew, we know Drew wants to just do his own thing anyway. So
Well,
maybe the long term plan is to get rid of Monet. You know.
I think that Drew is starting to accept that he wants to stay involved with this stuff because you saw Kane teaching him how to shoot in this episode. It's kind of like he
Yeah.
has
That.
veered away from the art stuff, even though he follows his boy Emmett on Instagram, and he got a text from him at the end of the episode. So he's kind of between the situation, but I think he's inching closer to the dark side now with learning
Yeah.
how to shoot and stuff like that. So
With
You know,
Drew, I think he's kind of like dancing between the two. Like, so part of him wants to leave the life alone and get into his art, but
mm-hmm.
then I think Kane has such a big influence on him.
Yep.
So it's like whenever Kane shows up, it's like, okay, yeah, now I'm back in the mix. So
Mm-hmm.
I think it's I don't know which side of Drew is gonna win the battle, but he's kind of split in two minds. But go ahead, Dana.
I was gonna say at the end of the day, it could be a whole swerve, and it ends up being Zeke who turns against Monet.
Well,
Yeah,
that needs
well,
to happen because
yeah.
they make Zeke look like such a weak character. He's listening to Monet. Yes, you need to go into the draft immediately. Yes, Monet, I will do that immediately. So I kind
Mhm.
of feel like he needs to stand up for himself and do something. But we'll see how that plays out. He cut off his relationship with Carrie, all of that, just to make Monet happy. So that's not good. Something's going to happen with that for sure.
That relationship is going nowhere.
yeah,
That's like I'm bored.
you're right. You're right.
And if you notice, right in the next, literally the next scene, he got what else with someone else.
Oh yeah, but that was he was messing around with other women too earlier in the
See,
in
this is
last
like
season.
no one thinks about Carrie. She's just an afterthought.
But Carrie was someone he did pursue last season. And when he got her, now he was good. Now that he had to break that off, he's just like, all right, I
Right?
gotta move
Done and
on.
over with. That's just hormones. He'll be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, so since we brought up Zeke, let's make the next question about him. So
Uh-oh.
he's aware of this tremendous pressure on him now to make the draft and get drafted to a team, and then Drew told him that Monet is planning to basically skip to whatever town he gets drafted to, whichever city or whatever. So Zeke is now aware of this tremendous pressure that's put on him, and the fact that Monet and her whole family sustainability is based on him. So what do you guys think is going to happen with Zeke? With all this weight on his shoulders in this season, he's caught up. He's caught up in the Carrie situation, and then also now he's kind of being pressured into this pro basketball career to support the Tejada family. So how do you see this whole thing playing out with Zeke? In the coming episodes and everything. So I'll go to you first, Dana. Any thoughts on that?
Well, first of all, we don't know how great Zeke is, and Zeke has not been playing well. So just because you're declaring I'm going pro does not mean that you will go pro. So you
Mm-hmm.
can have that be one of the things because of the pressure and mounting. Maybe he might off himself. Who knows? Too much pressure, you can't escape. Now you got the whole family, and he knows that the whole family is now thinking of him as a meal ticket.
Mm-hmm.
So that could be
Mm-hmm.
another part of the pressure too. Um, or he could just ends up excelling because of the pressure, and everything works out on that end. But I think in terms of story writing, I want him to fail in terms of trying to get into the pros because that would make it more compelling. Where else is Monique going to hitch her ride to if she does not have Zeke right there? With the Lakers or the Mets or whatever teams you play. Um, I think that I would prefer for him not to get drafted at all. and to probably have to pick out his life from there. I wonder if he doesn't get drafted, if Monet will turn on him and will do him like he did Kane and kick him out of the family. And then, the other kids have to step up and play something near, or maybe they all revolt against her. But I think, in terms of storylines and where we could take it, it would be much better if he cannot overcome the pressures. So that's what I want.
Yeah, yeah. And I was going to say something I completely forgot. So go ahead, Rich. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's not going to end. It's not going to work out the way that Monet is thinking. I find it very interesting how in this episode, we had the whole scene where they go back to the bar where they had the shooting, and she's telling this guy, "Oh yeah, we need you to fix up the place." So she's already thinking that this is going to work, and she's trying to basically invest in all this other stuff to assure that it works. Putting yourself into some type of debt because you think, oh, everything is going to work out perfectly. And then when Diana approaches her about saying that I want to go to school for accounting and I will be a great backup plan, she shoots that down again because she just feels like everything is going to work out. By the way, one little side note I want to mention, and I don't know if y'all thought about this or even some of the people listening to the show thought about this. Could it be that Monet is also turning down the idea of her kids wanting to get an education because maybe that's something that she gave up when she decided to have the kids at an earlier age? She couldn't go to college and stuff like that. Have y'all
Mhm.
ever thought about that as a possibility?
I think it's more of an insecurity issue. She does not want her children to be smarter than her, and she does
Yeah.
not want her children to be dependent. Because this goes back from the first season. Remember, I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
are they adopted? Are they hiding? What is this? She won't let them breathe. Remember the whole thing with this burner phone, and we have to share the phone, and all that weirdness.
Mm-hmm.
She has this thing. I don't know what happened to her in the past. Maybe they will go deep into that. But she has this thing where no one can be better than her, no one can be smarter than her, and no one can say no to her.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. You had something to say about it, Gary?
No, I was just gonna say I think they really need to dive into some more. I mean, they did it a little bit now, but they need to dive more into Monet's past to show why she
Mm-hmm.
acts these ways because it's very questionable, very suspect behavior. The fact that Diane shows interest in going to school and she just shuts it down immediately and stuff like that. Like, it's like why what made her act like this? So.
You know,
And
I
also,
oh no, go ahead. I'll go after
oh,
you.
I just want to say, in terms of also, that would bring in more money for the family by
Mm-hmm.
later on with the NBA, not right now, obviously, but later on with the NBA. And it's just really, it's like you were saying before, it's just really weird that overall she's saying how she can help to elevate things. And it's like, no, don't. I'm surprised they graduated any from high school, to be honest.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
agree. I agree. Um, the quick point I want to add to that is I think that they will go into the backstory a little bit now because you know that she has a history with Mecca. And the question that I had when they had that interaction is why didn't she end up with him instead of Lorenzo? So I kind of feel like
Mhm.
they need to elaborate on that. And we'll probably get an elaboration on that as it continues on. Um, but I mean, yeah, that's to be determined. But to get back to what you say, Gary, about Zeke, um, it's not going to work out as planned. Um, and it's just a lot of things that a lot of bad decisions he can make along the lines. Like you saw the end of this episode, he was sleeping around with this girl, and she was taking pictures of him as the police. The guy Kevin was asking him to come out for questioning. Is that photo going to be used later for something? I mean, that's to be determined. Will something end up happening with this woman he was sleeping with? Will she end up pregnant? I mean, there's a lot of different things that could happen, but I'm just telling you now, the NBA thing, I agree with Dana 100%. He needs to fail at getting it drafted altogether. But how they do it, that's what I want to see how they tell that story, because we've seen a lot of stories in the actual world of the NBA players, people who get drafted successfully, where you see they always get drafted. I have rarely seen a story where somebody doesn't get drafted, and a lot of bad things happen along those lines. So we'll see how they decide to tell that story.
Yeah, we'll see. But speaking of Monet, so a thought occurred to me as you guys were talking. That's kind of why I lost my train of thought with what I was going to say before, because I was, something you guys said made me remember a certain scene in this episode. So when Diane presents the stepped on drugs to Monet, and she tries it, she sees that it's sugar. Later on she uses it to make a cake and everything. But she didn't flip out like she usually would. Usually in these situations she would be like, real furious almost. Now part of that could be, because her mind just isn't in the game anymore, and she's putting all her hopes on Zeke. That could be part of it. But also, this grand plan with Kane, did you think she worked it out? She figured out that it was Kane all along? Because follow me here. So throughout the episode, she sees this red car playing this music. It reminds her of her past. She sees it again and again. She continues to hear the music. And it brings her mind back to, she must have been thinking about Mecca, I guess. So the fact that, her mind was in that zone, did she already suspect that he was, playing a game with her? And if she suspected that Mecca was playing a game with her, did she suspect that he must have had something to do with the work, or Kane had something to do with it, and that they might be working together since, Kane was around in the last episode. He turned up at the house, and everything. So maybe her mind, maybe she figured it out. That's just a thought, it's just a theory I had while you guys were talking, because it made me remember that scene, and it was like, why didn't she flip out in that moment? But
Well,
do you
yeah,
have any thoughts on that?
that's a good question to ask. I'll be very curious to know what everyone thinks about that particular question, what their answer is. Um, it's hard to tell for me, because when she had the conversation with Mecca, it was like she mentioned that she had mentioned the signs that he was around. So it's very possible to believe that he was the new connect, that he's the one that's been working with Kane. I don't know if she figured out that Kane was the one that had stole the product and made these changes. Uh, I guess we'll have to wait and see. But if she has figured it out, obviously she is doing a very good job right now of playing dumb. Having everything play out the way that Kane wanted it to play out, and he's back in the house with her, all this other stuff. So I'm curious to see that. But the quick point that I wanted to also make,
Mhm.
because you bringing up that scene reminded me of something else, is that
Yeah.
when you said that she didn't overreact to the drugs not being the real product, but yet Diana told Tariq the exact opposite. So it's kind of like Diana is trying to use this as leverage on Tariq in some way, making him feel like, oh, now you owe me because I got in trouble because of you. So I'm very
Right.
curious to see what is the strategy of all of that as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Power is definitely the right name for this show, because like it's really a game of like who's in power, who has the power in all these situations. Like it's crazy. It's a great title for the show. But yeah, we've lost Dana here. She's having some technical difficulties, but she'll be back, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So the last question is kind of related to that one, and it's just what, like, because in Power nothing happens for no reason. Like if there's a scene, you can bet it's leading to something. Like they don't just put things in there for no reason.
Mm-hmm.
So the question I wanted to ask is, what is going to come from the fact that we now know that Monet and Mecca have a history? What's going to come of this? So Dana, are you back? You good?
No.
Kane is back.
Can you hear me?
We
Yes.
hear
Can you hear
you,
me?
but yeah, we hear you.
Yeah, we can't see. Sorry. So, what was I just got back. What did I miss? What was the question?
Okay, so the question at the oh, you got a bit of an echo there.
Oh dear.
You got
Sorry.
your headphones.
Yep. Is it better now?
Yeah, that's way better. So the
Okay.
question
Yay.
is,
Sorry.
basically, what do you think is going to come from the fact that Monet and Mecca know each other? Because nothing in Power happens for no reason. So we were showing this whole build up to that final scene where the two of them kind of unite, and we find out that they have a history. So what do you think is going to come from this? Like, are those two going to conspire against Kane, or are they just going to form a relationship and it's going to be a happy family? Like, what would you foresee happening with that?
Okay. So what we do know is that she has told her husband, that she's the guy she's currently married to, that she is tired. Basically, that she is tired of this routine, these 22 years of marriage. It's not going anywhere. He's stuck in there for life. And you see that she's kind of struggling because you had earlier in the episode, she explained that, for 22 years, we held each other down no matter what. And he helped her as well. But going back to the whole quid pro quo thing, scratch my back, I scratch yours. He's not able to scratch her back anymore. He's in jail. So while they can have those nice little conjugal visits and meet every once a year, I'm not even sure how long they meet. That's really great and fine, but that is not fulfilling and that's not successful. And then here comes Dante. And you had the whole thing with her swooning over the Can You Fall? I forgot the name of the music with Rain, but she was falling over in love with Rain. And you looked at the garbage cans, and we know that was a sign for, I'm right outside your window, and then you can come and sneak out. And they knew each other since they were kids. They explained that. I feel that this is an opportunity where you may love someone greatly and appreciate them for whole, but you need to make something with your life. And right now, Monet is in a state of boredom, which you can also explain why she was so detached when she found out the cocaine was really just powdered sugar and she was just baking with it later on. That was a really great thing. But I think that that Dante, he is going to stay in this picture and they may end up rekindling their relationship. In terms of how that influences the business, my thing is she doesn't know that is the connect her son, Kane, is dealing with. And I want to know what the fallout is between that. Because looking at it from her perspective, oh, this man finally came back into my life. Please, God, help me. I'm bored in my marriage or whatever it is, state that it is. I'm bored in. You see him. Yay, God blessed me. But also, is this just too convenient? And this makes me wonder what Monet is going to do when she learns out how he's fully involved with everything and how that can either make her more cold-blooded or that can somehow, I don't want to say make her softer or make her wall go down a little bit more and her really wanting to have that exit plan. And then this also goes back to what's going to happen with Zeke, because her exit plan is Zeke, and the fact that she is whatever she is trying to do now and involved of that new connect, how that is going to backfire, and how if Zeke doesn't move the way that Monet wants to, how she will probably retaliate against Zeke. I don't know. It's funny.
What's so funny, Rich? Yeah. You got a comment on that?
No, I agree, because I just anytime you mention Zeke, I think about the way they have him in these different shots. He just looks goofy every time. Something important is happening in the scene. So yeah, that's why I was laughing. I was thinking about that.
Right. Yeah. So same question to you, Rich.
So yeah, that's something that can come into play.
Is there a delay here or something? Testing.
No, not right now.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So, Rich, same question to you. Like, what do you think is going to come of, this uniting of Monet and Mecca. You know, because of course, you know, at the end, Monet, she made it seem like she's not really interested in pursuing anything, but things don't happen in the show, you know, for no reason. So
Yeah,
there's going to be something that comes from this. So what would you think that's going to be?
I would say, given from the way that that scene was shot alone, they have big plans for that. Right in front of Junior's, was it the restaurant? They have cheesecake there too. Dana would know better. She's in New York. But that was just a great scene, like an epic scene to have these two characters come together. But that was just a great scene. Yeah, they have big plans for that. For sure. So yeah, they have big
Oh,
plans for that.
we got an echo here.
And they had them.
Yeah. So yeah, was that it, Rich?
Oh no,
Or did
yeah.
you? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say, how it comes together. Yeah, I agree with what Dana said. I don't know if she knows that Mecca is the connect yet. She's calling
Okay.
him Dante.
Yeah.
But obviously he's known as Mecca. She did not mention Mecca at all in that conversation.
Yeah.
So that could be something that is revealed later, and how that comes together is going to be very interesting. Yeah, I would say, yeah, like you mentioned earlier, Gary. Is it going to be a situation where, you know, Kanan and Tariq are the ones that they can end up working together and cutting out Monet and Mecca? I mean, is Mecca going to overstep Kane? All of that can happen. So I kind of feel like they can go in a lot of different directions. But I do think, yeah, like you said, that scene was brought together for a reason. And I think that they will be able to coexist and work together. But the question is, I feel it stems from a lot of their background, because they still have so many questions that they must answer about why didn't these two end up together? You know, what was the conflict with that? Because even when they had the conversation, she's like, "Oh, I didn't think I would ever see you again." So what happened between those two to make them not be together now? These are questions they have to answer. So I'm assuming we are going to get those answers. But I look forward to seeing what happens with that relationship as it blossoms. But yeah, I guess we'll just have to wait until next week to get more of a definitive answer on that particular theory.
Yeah, you're right. We do need a lot more context here because, you know, we don't know how much Monet knows about Mecca and, you know, what he's currently doing and everything. So yeah, there's a lot of context we don't have. So we can only, you know, make assumptions. But yeah, seems interesting. Like, you know, all the different links and the threads in this show right now is like, it's very interesting because you have the Davis McLean now. You know, he has ties to Carrie. You know, so it's like all these links, all these relationships. Like it's interesting. It's definitely interesting. I don't even know how the writers keep track of all this stuff. Like it's a lot. So yeah, it's going to be very juicy. But you know, we got the chance to see the teaser for the next episode. So I wanted to ask you guys if there's anything that stood out to you in that teaser. You know, for me, obviously we see a lot of Tariq and Kane in there. So, you know, like I said earlier, I'm interested to see how this alliance between those two is going to unfold and, you know, what kind of agreement they have. Because, of course, you know, you have the scene with Monet, Kane, and Tariq, and Monet is unaware of, you know, what happened between Tariq and Kane, you know, regarding Jabari. So they have to kind of play a role in that scene. But I want to know what kind of conversation they have after that, you know, in private or whatever. So it's going to be very, very interesting, you know, to see that, you know, alliance play out in that next episode. And then, you know, we see that, you know, Tariq is talking to Tay again. And then it looks like the investigation might lead directly to Tariq also. So it's going to be interesting. But Rich, what stood out to you? Like, which things stood out to you in that promo for next week's episode? And what insight does that give, for what might happen?
I think the biggest takeaway from that preview is that Mecca is now has his eye on Tariq, and we know that obviously I think that Kane basically feels as though he is in a position of power now. He has the connect. He has Mecca. You see that Monet lets him back into the family, and she tells Tariq in that same promo, whatever's going on between the both of you, you need to squash it. So Kane obviously is in a much better position of power now. I know you mentioned earlier, Gary, that it felt as though Kane got pushed out. I think you and Dana mentioned felt as though Kane got pushed out when Tariq stepped in. So now he has that position back again. So I think that is what stands out most, because now that Mecca is involved in spying on Tariq, sooner or later, Tariq is going to notice who is this guy that's spying after me, and how that situation escalates is interesting, because it's just a very it's hard to describe, because I would imagine that based on the street smarts and the ability to protect themselves, I can see down the road Mecca may test both, may also test Tariq. And if Tariq is better at doing this test than Kane did, again, that pits these two right against each other. So it can go in a lot of different directions, but overall, I will just say, yeah, next week looks very interesting, very explosive. The investigation will continue, and I'm curious to see what happens for sure.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, the Mecca stuff. I really want to know what's gonna happen when he starts digging into Tariq and everything, because that could be very interesting. But what about you, Dana? Was there anything in the trailer that stood out to you, or that's making you anticipate the next episode?
I really liked Richard's breakdown in terms of how Mecca could end up affecting Tariq. I thought that was really great, because remember, as you brought up, he was testing Kane throughout the whole episode, especially when it came to the part of be aware of your surroundings, and he broke that hand in like 80 different places. So I thought that was just a really interesting moment, and I wonder. Here's the thing, from my understanding, I don't know, I could be wrong. Does Mecca know that Kane is Monique's son? And if so, how does that impact everything that Mecca and Kane have been through? Will he drop Kane because of his involvement with Monet? Will he now look at Tariq? We do know that from Monique's standpoint, Monet is completely, not Monet. We know from Monet's standpoint that Tariq is completely off limits. So I wonder, does that also mean Mecca as well? So that's just one of the things that really kind of stood out to me. So it continues with the relationship between Kane and Tariq. They have more conversations on that, what is it, the rooftop? Always at one rooftop, but I do wonder how that will come into play as well. And then Carrie, maybe they'll just kill her off.
Rich, correct me if I'm wrong. When last week in the first episode, when Kane is talking to Mecca for the first time, did they reference his dad in that conversation?
I could have swore he did. So he probably knows.
Okay.
He probably knows. But here's something that we didn't really discuss. Could it be that Mecca might have in the past had some interaction with Tommy or Ghost? Because if he finds out that Tariq, that's his son, and he had beef with either one of them in the past, that's also a problem for Tariq.
Yeah, because that's another thing we're forgetting here, because Tommy, Ghost, and Kanan were like three pretty big, people coming from Queens. So it's entirely possible that somebody knows these people, and if they know Tariq is the son of Ghost, then that could lead to a lot of things. Like, you know, Tariq could even inherit some of Ghost's old beefs or something. You know, so
Yeah.
so you never know. So
Yeah.
That would be interesting.
yeah.
Bit mean, but interesting.
Yeah. So yeah, overall, it looks like it's going to be a interesting episode 3, and you know, after episode 2, I think we're in for a treat this season. Like it's definitely getting better and better. So gotta give the team props. You know, there were like last week, there were parts where I was thinking, you know, this is like a real baby version of Power. But you know, this episode in particular, it kind of put it back into, you know, a positive light for me. This was, you know, it was sort of like the writing, and the level of writing we saw in Raising Canaan. So you know, I think they did a great job. So I'm looking forward to see where they go from here. But before we end off, was there anything else at all you guys wanted to bring up that we didn't already cover in this episode? You know, anything we might have missed at all? Dana, Rich? No? Go ahead.
Thinking. I think
Go ahead,
that's it.
Rich. I see Rich unmuted.
Oh no, I just was gonna say I think we did cover everything. I can't think of anything else that we didn't cover. I just wanted to agree. Yeah, it was a very good episode, and I look forward to seeing how the storyline progresses next week.
Mm-hmm. That and Lauren's too clingy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
she was right though. Like whenever Tariq and Lauren are in a scene together, he always gets distracted. He always ends up leaving or something, you know. So she's got a point, but
They're young.
And
But, yeah.
Diana interrupted that conversation. That's what I also find interesting.
yeah, like, and yeah, I kind of go back and forth on who Tariq has the most chemistry with out of those two. In this episode, it seemed like Diane, but you know, it goes back and forth, I guess. But yeah, it's that's another interesting element that, you know, we don't always talk about, the romantic side. You know, Tariq's you know, his love life. So I don't know what direction that's going in, but yeah. Oh, one thing also I wanted to bring up is it was great to see Effie back too. You know,
yeah.
and I'm wondering if now Diane has a new friendship, you know, with Effie now, because we see that she went to go and see Effie of her own accord. So is this going to be a long-term friendship between the two? So I'm wondering where that's going to go next.
And also, to point out, never eat Monet's cooking because it might be laced with cocaine. We don't know. Questionable.
Yeah, you never know. But yeah, so that's pretty much it for this week. I hope you guys enjoyed, you know, all of the discussion. If you got any thoughts, drop them in the comments for sure. You can also hit us on social media and everything. And, you know, like I said before, don't forget to like and subscribe, you know, if you like the content, you know, or follow us on, you know, the podcast platforms if you're listening over there. And yeah, that's pretty much it. We're going to get to our shout outs now before we end off. So, Dana, you got any shout outs?
Shout outs to everyone who's watching and listening.
Cool. Short and, you know, straight into the point and everything. So, that's cool. How about you, Richard?
Shout out to you and Dana. Always a fun conversation. And of course, all the Power fans out there. Thank you for the continued support. Please feel free to let us know your thoughts on the episode in the comment section. And we look forward to talking about episode 3 next week.
For sure. Yeah, big shout outs to, you know, all the people who comment, you know, and let us know what you think of the show. Give us, you know, feedback and everything. Big shout outs to all of you. You know, and I want to give a special shout out to Robert Silver. And, you know, he has a podcast called Legend of Sports. So, you know, you can check that out on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and all that stuff. So, you know, big shout outs to him. He's a long time supporter of the podcast. And, you know, he's always giving us his feedback and interacting with us, you know, to the point where we even talk about other topics. So yeah, the community that we have here is amazing. We, you know, we really love all of you guys. So and we love when, you know, the old faces that used to listen from original Power, when they come back and grace us with a comment, like that's always nice to see also. So yeah, big shouts to all of you. And I want to give an additional shout out to the team at the Koalition.com. You know, we have a very talented team of writers on the site and everything. You know, we've been quoted in many different places. You know, most recently on a commercial that was on what was it, ESPN or something like that.
Yeah, for the
So
New World video game.
yeah. So yeah, we got some real talented writers at the site, and you know, there's a lot of different content for you guys to go check out. You know, if you're into Hawkeye, the new TV show, you know, if you're into wrestling, if you're into The Walking Dead, you know, we also do shows covering these different things also. So definitely go check out the channel and the website, the Koalition.com. That's Coalition with a K. And that's pretty much it for this episode of the Powercast. We will return next week to cover episode 3. So thank you for listening, everyone, and have a great week. Peace out.
Peace.